Without a doubt, it has been a very crazy year for the UFC. It all started when Aljamain Sterling, who was considered to be the best grappler at bantamweight, who had just defeated Henry Cejudo, the Olympic gold medalist, lost to Sean O'Malley, who at his best looks like a drug addict strung out on the side of the road with a sign that says, "We'll give tuggies for money." No one thought he had a chance against Aljamain Sterling. Nobody saw it coming. Nobody could have guessed it. Not a single individual was even giving a notion of cognitive brain power towards the idea of that outcome playing out. Except me. Following this, we had Israel Adesanya, who was considered by many to be the greatest middleweight to ever live and the best striker the sport had ever seen. He had a striking clinic put on him. He got 50-45 by practically a character from the Trailer Park Boys. And now this leads us to the final pay-per-view of the year, where Colby Covington will be fighting Leon Edwards. And if Colby Covington wins, he will have completed the trifecta of what the fuck champions of 2023. Now, the good news about this, if you just look at it purely stylistically, on paper, Colby should have a better chance at beating Leon than Sean or Deshaun had going into their championship fights. But with that being said, I do think Colby, he has some problems going against Leon Edwards. Now, to preface, I'm not going to name any names, but a lot of people like to discredit Colby, saying things like, his best win is a 48-47 decision over RDA, and I know that sounds like a good little zinger to throw Colby's way, but the reality of the situation is, you can make a legit argument that he beat Kamaru Usman the second time they fought, and you cannot even argue the fact that he gave him a real run for his money the first time they fought. So Colby is legit, okay? He's really, really, really good. So we can move on from that one. Another one is he's not very active. Now, that's completely true, and if you look at it from a competitive standpoint, yeah, guys like Amir Muhammad are going to deserve the title shot a lot more than he does. I think Colby is thinking about damage and longevity. He understands he's a draw, and he knew Dana was gonna give him a title shot, so he chose to sit out and wait for it, instead of fighting another killer down at welterweight and taking a lot of damage that he didn't need to take. Remember, Dana was pushing for him to fight Hamzat. Yeah, I would probably try to sit out too. I'm not saying it's right, I'm just saying that's the reality. But let's get into it. Now, the first thing you clearly have to consider while looking at this matchup is, how is Leon Edwards going to handle Colby Covington's wrestling? Now, Colby is a very high-level wrestler, but the number one thing that makes his wrestling so effective is the pace he puts on guys. But with that being said, Colby's not just spamming double legs like Jordan Burroughs. He likes to push guys up against the fence, throwing a lot of strikes, then he'll shoot the double leg, but if he can't connect his hands, he'll switch to a single, where he has a very high technical ability to finish. If he can't get that, he'll switch to a body lock. But if all else fails, he'll just work in the clinch and fight from there, where he's really good with elbows in close. But then he'll just continue to keep threatening the takedowns until you get worn out and they start coming a lot easier. Now, if you had only ever seen Leon's second fight with Usman, you may think a guy who weaponizes pace like Colby is going to have a lot of success against Leon. But as everybody knows, that fight was at elevation, and tons of fighters on that card gassed out really bad, and Leon was one of them. When he fought Usman at sea level, he was able to match him for all 5 rounds, and as we've seen before, Usman has a very similar gas tank to Colby. Though every time Leon got taken down up against the fence, he was able to use Turtle to get back to his feet without taking very much damage. But the thing about Colby Covington is, he is so good at making guys constantly work after getting them down. If he's able to get you down to a knee, as soon as you attempt to build a base back up, he'll circle to your back. He threatens with rear naked chokes that aren't really there, but you still have to be weary of. He won't even put his hooks in. He'll just ride you out and make it extremely hard for you to stand up. And then the second you do, he'll just reshoot a takedown. And if he gets you down to a knee again, you're going through that whole process over and over again. And he just melts guys with this. So with this being said, I think if Colby can consistently get some takedowns on Leon, Leon's not just going to be able to turn to his base, grab a whizzer, and stand back up like he was doing with Usman. I think Colby is going to make it a lot harder for him, and he can easily win 3 rounds if he's able to do that. But here's where the problems start to arise for Colby. First things first, to get the simple ones out of the way, Leon is way bigger than Colby is. He's going to have a huge height, reach, and weight advantage. So first things first, Colby needs to find a way to close the distance. But this is going to be an issue because Leon Edwards is the best striker Colby has ever faced by far. If you know anything about Colby Covington, you know he loves tucking his chin, winging a few hard overhands, looking to back his opponent up against the fence, or put their hands up so he can shoot a takedown. Now, against the 5'11" Masvidal and the 5'11" Robbie Lawler, this played out exactly how I just described. Against the 6'2", really technically proficient Leon Edwards, you're pretty much just filling up his food bowl because he is going to eat Colby alive if he's trying to enter into range doing that. Usman has way more power in his hands than Colby does. So in theory, Leon would have a lot more to worry about exchanging with Usman, but he was still finding a lot of success with counters. Catching him with uppercuts coming in, or grabbing the tie clinch and landing knees or elbows in close. I just have a hard time seeing a scenario where Colby is able to pressure Leon up against the fence consistently, or getting Leon worried about Colby's strikes so he can set up takedowns. I just think that's going to be really hard for him to do. If Leon does decide to be very kick-heavy in his offense during this fight, I can see Colby looking to catch a leg kick and then taking him down from there. But also, Leon's kicks, they're very fast, they're very strong, and he sets them up very well. If Colby makes a mistake and eats some of those kicks full force, it's gonna be uncomfortable for him, that's for sure. But let's say Colby is able to get Leon backing up towards the fence and he's able to shoot a takedown. Leon was able to completely neutralize Usman's wrestling in their third fight, all because he just constantly fought one of Usman's hands. Now, this is a simple but very effective strategy. If you can't connect your hands, you cannot take the person down. It's just that simple. The few takedowns Usman was able to get came because he was able to catch Leon in the middle of a striking combination, or he got Leon to put his guard up. Now, if Colby can do that successfully, then the takedowns will come a lot easier. But again, Colby's striking success comes from how he overwhelms guys. He doesn't have a ton of power, and he's not really looking to set up his combinations. So most likely, Leon is going to see the takedowns coming. Still though, if Colby is able to get Leon pushed up against the fence with a takedown, I think he still has an advantage. Because like I said earlier, he is really good at transitioning from different kinds of takedowns and mixing in strikes up close, but so is Leon. He's really good at fighting in the clinch, and because he has a weight advantage, it means he has to worry less about defending the takedowns, which is going to give him more opportunity to land damage. Now, if this is where the fight takes place, I think it'll be pretty close. Leon will probably have the edge fighting in the clinch, but Colby being able to mix in his wrestling, if he can connect his hands behind Leon or get deep on a single leg, he's going to be able to take Leon down, and Leon is going to have to work really hard on getting back up. But you gotta remember, the thing about Colby is he fights to win decisions. He does not have a ton of tools to finish the fight. So Colby's advantages in the wrestling doesn't matter if he can't get on the inside. And I think the most likely scenario for how this fight's going to go in the stand-up is Colby trying to close the distance but getting pieced up in the process. I just think that is the most likely scenario.